Continuing from the previous episode 1735. Lord Li's soul, successful? Hearing this voice resounding like a demonic voice throughout the desert hinterland, the many powerhouses under the protection of Zon Tianwan, their pupils shrank tightly, and hurriedly turned their eyes to the sky. The 5-mang blood and soul array on top was projected. At this moment, the countless gloomy blood mists in the 5 corners of the Wumong blood soul array have completely disappeared without a trace, and even the pink space in the center of the formation is constantly shaking, and even the world is afraid of it. Terrible fluctuations arise spontaneously. He still succeeded. Seeing such a scene, Hao Nier looked extremely solemn, and immediately said solemnly, "Senior sister, give me the Soul Eater talisman, and you can go." Xiao Yan said with a solemn expression, looking at the constantly shaking and expanding pink space. "Then you will die. But if we don't, we'll all die. Then let me be the hero. You should still be your descendant of the Xiao clan." Senior sister. The two stood tall in the sky, and their simple conversation made Xiao Yan jump into a rage. "Junior brother, listen to me. There are mysterious things in me, so I won't die, so you take them and go." After a while, seeing Xiao Yan's same stubborn temper, Hao Nier did not give in at all. Can only bow down and say. However, what is the mystery of Hao Nier? Once he completely detonates his own power and triggers the true power of the Soul Eater talisman, although he can fight against the Master of the Soul, in the end, no matter whether he succeeds or fails, Hao Nier will eventually lose his soul. Wait a minute, there's still time. Go back. And Xiao Yan just wanted to explain that with Xiao Sensheng's power and holy flame, he finally dealt with the Master of Li's soul for a time or two. A terrifying ripple that made Xiao Yan's scalp numb slowly spread from the sky like the end of the day. Top spread. Zoo! Without any pause, Xiao Yan's figure wriggled, directly pulling Hao Nier with his palm and forcibly taking him towards Zon Tianwan. Stunned, Hao Nier originally wanted to have other words to break Xiao Yan's stubbornness, but after being pulled by Xiao Yan like this, something strange appeared on her calm and pretty face. It seems that since childhood, he has only cared about cultivation, and has never faced a man before, even being pulled by Xiao Yan. A rather unfamiliar figure of a man appeared in Hao Nier's memory, as if he and this man the relationship is quite close, but Hao Nier can't remember who he is for a while. Defend with all your strength. Xiao Yan brought Hao Nier to the Xuanxin Ring protective shield, moved the protective barrier directly towards the bottom of the desert, and immediately spoke to the strong around him. Wang buzzing. Because these guys knew Xiao Yan's identity, without any hesitation, the dazzling fighting chi turned into hundreds of rock-solid fighting chi barriers, wrapping everyone tightly. The forbidden technique of the Demon of Light actually collided with the time when the Lord of Li's soul broke through the cycle of reincarnation. At this moment, the black evil dragon Wolf and Yu Ur, who were beside Xiao Yan, spoke at the same time. For a time, through the endless desert, with the strength of their souls, everyone could clearly feel every move that took place in the desert. Hoo-hoo! The yellow sand is squirming like the ocean, clamoring for their anger, and this already dilapidated desert hinterland, 2 strong auras isolated from the world, are about to appear in the world. Lord of Li's soul. In an instant, when the endless rays of light converged on the top of the desert, the Demon of Light's beautiful eyes finally unfolded. At the same time, a pure white holy sword of judgment thousands of meters in size quietly crawls in the light. The head of the devil. The bright breath is extremely powerful, and even the sacred breath contained in it purifies all the evil in the world. The bright wings behind him slowly stretch, and the golden pattern on the bright holy garment pushes its breath to the real half-reincarnation realm. What an evil formation! This formation may have eroded the blood souls of tens of thousands of elites in Li's soul domain. The Demon of Light did not act, nor did he easily cut off the forbidden level judgment sword. His eyes swept lightly, and instantly locked the 5 corners of the 5-mang blood soul formation in front of him that had already dried up. Lord of the Soul, come out and die. At the next moment, the beautiful eyes stared at the core of the formation, constantly shaking and expanding the pink light group. An extremely terrifying speed, growing rapidly. And that devil baby is the newborn of the Master of the Soul. Gululu. The ghostly aura seemed to sense the divine aura of the Demon of Light, and it vibrated immediately, quite frightened. Light! Without any hesitation, he tightly guarded the forbidden technique divine sword above his head, and the dazzling rays of light gathered behind him. Immediately, endless milky white rays of light rushed towards the five-mang blood and soul formation. Boom! Attacked by such a sacred aura of light from the demon of light, the sturdy evil formation became shaky for a while, and it was about to collapse in a blink of an eye. Although I am deeply immersed in evil, such evil formations should not exist in the world, so let's destroy them. The palm of the hand was raised, and countless rays of light turned into a small pair of swords, directly facing the formation in the void. Roaring away. Kacha! With a sound, the formation was completely smashed by it, and then black fragments emerged from the air, and even the entire formation became extremely uneasy. Lord Li's soul, it's over. Forbidden technique of light, sword of demon judgment of light. Looking at the broken evil formation, there was only the pink light group that was extremely strong and could not be destroyed by any means. The demon of light did not hesitate, smiled slightly, and killed with a smile. I mean, there is no doubt about it. Sha-sha! As soon as the voice fell, with the blessing of the holy clothes of light, the demon of light was like a real angel, with the white wings behind his back shaking slowly, and every shaking would spread out countless sacred light auras, and the palms slowly lifted. He got up and grabbed the bright judgment demon sword above his head in one fell swoop. Boom boom boom! The breath of the demon of light immediately became sluggish after holding the Qianzhang Juju sword. Obviously, it takes a lot of time to perform the forbidden technique, but this display is enough to drain all her strength. However, this is the case, she still has the power to wield the demon judgment sword. Lord of Li's soul, the present you brought to him in the past will end completely. Fall under the demon sword. Bright judgment, execution of ghosts and evils. Devil judgment sword. With a loud shout, the pure white magic judgment sword, like a pillar of the sky, slashed away at the place where the Lord of the Soul was, with a strong momentum, destroying the sky and destroying the sky. Land. In an instant, the entire desert hinterland trembled. Countless heaven and earth energies, and even the dust in the sky, became extremely quiet for a while. They were roaring, cheering, and jumping for joy. The emperor returning from eternal slumber who greeted it. With the advent of this destructive sword, the entire desert hinterland was filled with extremely disturbing fluctuations, as if it would explode and shatter at any time, and the pink light group suddenly burst into a faint channel visible to the naked eye. Immediately, a pink bloodshot spread out, and a beautiful black throne was suspended in the air. On top of his throne, a handsome man with dark pupils stared at the sword that was rushing towards him with a smirk. That is, the Master of the Soul under the reincarnation. And there is also the Master of the Soul who has left the soul body, completely condensed the human body, and successfully devoured the Acacia Heartbreaker. Continuing from the previous episode 1736. Chi-Chi. The Lord of Soul Li stood on the black throne, and for a while the black throne was filled with a special evil pattern, like the most ancient and tyrannical power between the world. Ignoring the changes of the Lord of Souls, the demon of light tried his best to cut down his final blow. Immediately, relying on the increase of the light saint clothes and the double-sided wings, he floated weakly in the air, and the corner of his mouth raised with a smile. Even if the Lord of Li's soul breaks through the cycle of reincarnation, she still believes that under her light-based forbidden technique, the bright judgment sword, the Lord of Li's soul can only be completely turned into nothingness. This is the confidence of the demon of light, because the forbidden technique of the light system has a natural restraint on the Lord of Li's soul. In addition to the fluctuation of the half-reincarnation level at this time, the demon of light has enough confidence. This time, I still won. He glanced weakly, and then the demon of light laughed. That's not necessarily reincarnation. Isn't it possible that half-reincarnation and a forbidden technique can threaten it? Listening to the words of the demon of light, the face of the Master of the Soul became crazy, and a breath that surpassed heaven and earth suddenly filled out. Reincarnation. True reincarnation. It's a pity that even if he has gathered many strong men from the entire West Temple and Li Hunwei, he still hasn't completely entered the first reincarnation. However, the melancholy reincarnation is enough. A wisp of black energy suddenly appeared on the body of Lord Li's soul, and then it was slowly entangled around the new body of Lord Li's soul. After the breath, it turned into a pair of extremely evil black wings. With an overwhelming power, even the soul will be shaken away by it. And the pair of black wings, like objects carefully carved by a demon, slowly stretched out, and after the demon's wings were unfolded, the entire sky became overcast. A shock and anxiety filled everyone under the desert. Heart, I am afraid that the forbidden technique will not be able to defeat the Lord of Souls under samsara, and the demon of light should be less fortunate. At this time, Xiao Sensheng, who lived in Xiao Yan's body, spoke softly and said solemnly. N. Xiao Yan nodded lightly, his eyes froze immediately. Even with the increase in Xiao Sensheng's power, if it really came to the last moment, Xiao Yan would naturally not abandon so many companions. The forbidden technique of the light system is indeed tyrannical, but the master of the soul under the reincarnation is even more terrifying. Hao Nier also said, obviously the matter decided in his heart has not changed now. Boom! The bright demon judgment sword was swung down by the demon of light, but the speed of its descent was extremely slow, which gave the Lord of Soul Li a chance to breathe. The Lord of Li's soul looked at the 1,000-meter-long bright judgment demon sword in the sky, and slowly surged towards him. The chi was purified so much that the light pattern on the demon judgment sword was covered with countless sacred breaths, and the face of the Lord of Li's soul also became pale. He has just broken through the reincarnation, and he has not fully grasped the power of reincarnation, and the attack of the demon of light is extremely tyrannical. If he is not careful, I am afraid that all plans will be ruined. Great immortal art. Gui Nirvana false god finger. Looking at the pure white devil judgment sword that was like the wrath of a god, the black wings of the Lord of Li's soul suddenly surged, and immediately a strong aura that surpassed the heavens and the earth spread out. Countless dark auras and a rather faint pink flame filled his body, and after a while, they madly gathered towards the void in front of him. After a short while, the void collapsed suddenly, and a swipe of the world was engulfed in it. The discolored black giant finger suddenly emerged from the void. The black giant finger is filled with a black aura, which is the fluctuation of reincarnation, and there are countless black lacquer lines on it, which is completely decorated like a real magic pillar. Great immortal art? Seeing such a terrifying blow from Lord Li's soul, the extremely violent aura suppressed everyone in the desert, and a sense of depression appeared in their hearts. Obviously, this level of attack was performed with the power of true reincarnation. Beyond the realm of heaven and earth, reaching a real Xeon strike is enough to destroy the sky and destroy the earth. Boom! The black giant finger was completely wrapped in countless mysterious lines, and immediately roared away with the world-destroying power that crushed the void. Destroy it! Seeing Lord Li's soul's counterattacks so violently, the demon of light nodded slightly and smiled sweetly. The attack of the Lord of Li's soul is tyrannical, which is comparable to the forbidden art, but how can he resist this bright aura? Boom! A deafening voice came from the sky, and two powerful attacks immediately approached, and as the two approached, the void became trembling for a while, as if it would be at any time. Crushed jade is as fragile. The demon of light. It's time to end. I had a lot of trouble today, and I have to thank you for the previous things. My path of reincarnation was also helped by you. After a while, the voice said with a smile, the more bright and terrifying. What's the matter? Hearing the words of the Lord of Souls, the demon of light's delicate body was suddenly shocked, as if he had sensed something. His beautiful eyes suddenly moved, and he looked at the 1,000-jong demon judgment sword. Lovesickness and brokenheartitis. Just as the black giant finger and the bright judgment demon sword were about to touch each other, energy ripples that destroyed all things erupted, and a pink flame uncontrollably fell off from the body of Li's soul, and immediately faced it directly. The bright judgment demon sword is attached. Kacha kacha! After the breath, there were cracks on the blade of the bright demon judgment sword, which suddenly appeared, and with the emergence of these cracks that full of forbidden magic level the sword, the breath disappeared rapidly, and it suddenly dropped in just a moment, and the power was greatly reduced. The light element forbidden technique is indeed very powerful. If he really fights against the Lord of the Soul will also be seriously injured. Unfortunately, the divine aura of the demon judgment sword is useless to the holy flame, so after being attached by the holy flame, the aura of the demon judgment sword was sluggish, and there were faint traces of shattering. You actually successfully swallowed acacia broken enteritis? Not good. Looking at this scene, the pretty face of the demon of light finally turned ugly and pale. It is ridiculous that the forbidden light technique that he exerted with great effort was finally cracked so easily by the master of Soul Li. Kacha kacha! Without any hesitation, the pink flame instantly disappeared into the body of Li Soul, and then the body of the demon judgment sword shook violently, and the cracks continued to enlarge and finally shattered like a crystal. The flames came out like this without any destructive power. Die! After the sight of the forbidden technique was resolved, the Lord of Li Soul waved his hand, and the destructive energy contained in the black giant finger suddenly went up. At this moment, the demon of light just felt what real fear is. Attacked by the reincarnation level attack, his body became stiff, unable to move at all. The blood flow became extremely slow, an indescribable depression filled his heart, and the breath of death filled his body. Continuing from the previous episode 1737. Not good. Go! Whatever you say, you can't let the Lord of Li Soul obliterate the Devil of Light, otherwise. Xiao Yan said in a deep voice, watching the terrifying offensive of the Lord of Li Soul, who seemed to have lost all his fighting spirit. Road. Let's go! Looking at each other, Xiao Yan, Hao Near, and Heisha Longling immediately stood up, penetrated the protection of the defensive cover under the desert, and threw themselves into the battlefield. Now Xiao Yan can no longer care about the acacia broken heart inflammation that was swallowed up by the Lord of Li Soul. The Devil of Light has a special status, and is more expensive as the wife of the Demon Emperor. Xiao Yan can't stand idly by saying anything. Because, the Demon World is the strongest supporter behind the Xiao clan. And the Demon Emperor, the overlord of the Demon World, is extremely fiery towards the Xiao clan, and even the overall power of the Demon World occupies an extremely large proportion in the entire Great Thousand World. Boom! The black giant finger contains a strange force that eats away the vitality of human beings. It has just spread hundreds of meters around the Demon of Light. The Demon of Light feels powerless and threatened with death for the first time. So close to myself. Senior, you stay and are responsible for responding to the Demon of Light. Senior sister, Xiao Yan said coldly, with an unprecedented solemnness in his voice, and arranged. Now, by virtue of Xiao Sensheng's strength, he has temporarily possessed the 8-star Do Xian consummation, and in the face of Samsara's attack, only Xiao Yan and Hao Near can resist a little bit, and the Black Dragon and Wolf can only be used as a response. It's just ants who are beyond their own power. Seeing Xiao Yan and the three of them pouring out, the corners of Master Li Soul's mouth changed slightly, and he said with a smile. The power of reincarnation is more than wonderful and mysterious. It took so much manpower and material resources to finally achieve his own path of reincarnation. He enjoyed watching others cry and cry while living under his own torture, falling into a desperate situation. Instead of directly obliterating the opponent, it is more beautiful to torture the opponent a little bit, and watch the opponent's fighting spirit disappear, just like the Walking Dead. Soul-devouring talisman. Hao Near's palm changed, quickly forming seals, and illusory energy spells slowly floated around him, setting off his breath like a real evil girl. You, the Demon of Light, who originally thought that he was going to die, looked at Hao Near and Xiao Yan's sudden attack, his expression trembling slightly, and he wondered. The alien race and the Great Thousand World have been at odds since ancient times. How could this guy help him like this? Lord Li Soul is right. The Demon Emperor did not fall completely, but was sealed up by them. This guy in front of me is the key to breaking the seal. Lord Demon of Light. In an instant, the body of the Black Dragon Wolf was transformed directly, showing the body. The huge Black Dragon shadow of hundreds of meters was suspended in the sky, but compared with the giant finger of destruction, it was extremely small. Black Fiend Dragon Wolf? Looking at this scene, the Demon of Light's expression finally became abnormal. The Demon of Light is familiar with the appearance of Hay Fiend Dragon Wolf. Because he is the most trusted subordinate beside the Demon Emperor, if he opens his mouth, then this is probably true. Sir. With a roar, the Black Dragon Wolf's huge body stopped directly in front of the Demon of Light, trying to use his huge dragon body to resist such a tyrannical blow. The power of the Soul Eater Talisman. At the critical moment, the Soul Eater Talisman in Hao Near's hand turned into countless black lines, and roared directly at the black giant finger. The power of the 4 holy flames. On the side, Xiao Yan trembled, and 4 groups of holy flames of different colors suddenly appeared, rushing towards the black giant fingers. At this time, Xiao Yan was too late for fusion, and could only rely on the power of the four Saint Flames to try to weaken the power of some black giant fingers. Gudong! Boom! As soon as the three groups of forces came into contact, the entire sky was silent for a second at first, and the next moment, a wave of energy that destroyed the sky and destroyed the earth, with the sky as the center, completely spread out towards the surrounding. For a time, countless yellow sands above the desert hinterland were completely ignited, and even everyone under the protective cover of the desert hinterland suddenly stopped beating, blood flow became sluggish, and a sense of depression filled their hearts. Cough cough. After a few minutes, the aftermath of the shocking explosion in the sky completely disappeared, and the desert hinterland was completely dilapidated, with huge cracks of thousands of feet, as if torn by demons, exposed above the desert. Beneath the crack is an endless dark space. That space contains a terrifying power that is terrifying. Are you all right? As the attack ended, Xiao Yan forced a smile and said to the few people behind him. Hao Nier's aura became faintly sluggish. It was obvious that he had just used too much of his source power in order to exert the power of the Soul Eater talisman. Even so, he was only able to exert the power of the Soul Eater talisman. Xiao Yan, at the last moment his body control was taken over by Xiao Sensheng, and he did not hesitate to use his soul power and holy flame to barely resist the attack of the Master of the Soul under Samsara. At this moment, Xiao Yan's body is controlled by Xiao Sensheng, because in the face of the Master of the Soul who is like a master, only Xiao Sensheng can deal with it. The situation is not optimistic. Xiao Sensheng felt the state of Xiao Yan's body and spoke slightly. As for the Demon of Light and the Black Dragon Wolf, there is nothing to lose. Dragon Wolf, the Demon of Light, the Holy Clothes of Light, still exists, and the wings behind him slowly wriggle. Obviously, the situation is now beyond his control. Sir, this time, you can't easily fall no matter what, the Master has to wait for you. The Black Devil Long Yi couldn't help but said. This time, I won't die. The Demon of Light laughed suddenly. As long as that guy didn't die, how could he go to Wangchen alone? I'm tired, so let's end this game completely. Seeing how hard a few people struggled to resist his attack, the Lord of Li's soul laughed. The power of reincarnation. A cold snort, like an evil sound penetrating the sky, spread out completely, and around him, a delicate pink light beam suddenly filled the air. In the pink beam not only contains the power of reincarnation that no one can understand, but also contains the power of lovesickness and broken enteritis. Damn! Seeing this scene, Xiao Sensheng and Hao Nier were shocked. An attack of this level was not something they could resist. Squeak! For a time, a mysterious and evil red halo slowly emerged around the Demon of Light. This is a sin? Just when he was about to obliterate everyone, the Lord of Soul Li was surprised. The seventh decree, the space is surging. Dressed in red, a man slowly appeared beside the Demon of Light. The voice just fell, and the two figures shook violently, and an invisible wave of resistance emerged. Where to run? Leave this seat completely. Upon seeing this, the Master of Soul Li roared away at him with the pink beam of light on his palm. Wang hum! With a sound, the pink beam slammed into the air, but the figure of the Demon of Light completely disappeared here. Soon after, the Demon of Light and its demon guards all rebelled, seriously injuring some forces of the evil race outside the territory, attempting to submit to the Holy See of Humanity, caused a lot of trouble. Even because of this, the Demon Emperor who had just cracked the seal led the army of the demon world and completely wiped out the power of the Holy See in the human world. Of course, that's all for later. Continuing from the previous episode 1739. Boom! The entire desert hinterland turned discolored, and the strong fluctuations generated by the two reincarnation powerhouses, Lord of Soul and Lord of Soul Eater, completely shattered the entire space. First release, break this seat. Seeing the blood-colored chains with an unstoppable evil aura, slaughtered at him, the Soul Eater stomped heavily on the void, and then countless spells on his body emerged, directly against him. Roaring away. These incantations seem weak, only the size of a thumb, but without exception, they all fell out of the Soul Eater talisman, and the power contained in them is enough to shake the world. Gotcha! With a sound, the seemingly indestructible blood-colored chains were directly smashed by seemingly insignificant black incantations, turned into traces of black light, and dissipated between heaven and earth. It seems that your so-called reincarnation, is not complete. Seeing that a random blow from the black incantation completely wiped out the attack of the Lord of Soul Lee, the Lord of Soul Eater's mouth slowly surged, and he said softly, "Master of Soul Eater, don't be too happy too soon." Listening to Master Soul Eater's contemptuous words, Master Lee Soul couldn't help clenching his teeth, roaring, and the blood clouds rolled around under his feet, as if there was something terrifying, something is about to be born. Through the simple battle just now, the Master of Lee Soul knew that the current Master of Soul Eater is also a real reincarnation realm. Although he has not stepped into the first-level reincarnation realm, there is still a big gap between his own reincarnation and the latter's reincarnation. After all, the Lord of Lee Soul casts the road of reincarnation through holy flames and the blood of countless strong men. On the other hand, the Lord of Soul Eater steps into reincarnation step by step. There are naturally many gaps between the two. This disparity, in the battle, the Fang is vivid and vivid. It seems that I can only use that thing. Otherwise, the Soul Eater Lord under the reincarnation is now adding the increase of the Soul Eater talisman. I am afraid that today, there will be a lot of misfortune. Come out. Use any other means, otherwise. The Lord of Soul Eater stared at the Lord of Lee Soul with a smile, and the Soul Eater talisman that had already been branded on his forehead continued to spread out black lines. The power of devouring slowly burst out. Master of Soul Eater, you forced me. I didn't want to use this thing. Seeing the confidence in the corner of Master Soul Eater's mouth, Master Lee roared viciously. Come out to this seat. Without any hesitation, Lord Lee Soul suddenly took out a rather exquisite scroll from under his sleeve. The scroll as a whole showed a strange black color, and just after it appeared, this space was filled with a strong sense of unease. The scroll is like a circular slip, with countless tiny lines engraved all over its body, which can be vaguely distinguished. Those lines turned out to form an extremely ferocious ghost, and the ghost is monstrous and vicious, as if guarding the scroll. Something inside. This is. At this moment, the Lord of Soul Eater flashed a dim light all over his body, and said vigilantly, "The Soul Eater talisman is one of the 12 evil soldiers in the ghost world. Its power is naturally close to that of the gods in the human world, but it is only because of the power of both the current Soul Eater Lord, the strange scroll in the hands of the Lee Soul Lord. When it appeared, my heart trembled involuntarily. Come out, Soul Killer." Looking at the doubts on the face of the Lord of Soul Eater, the Lord of Lee Soul laughed frantically, and as the voice fell, on the black gloomy scroll, an illusory ghost thousands of feet tall, was directly torn down from the scroll by the Lord of Soul Lee, and suddenly with an evil and monstrous magic power, tried to attack the Lord of Soul Lee. Gotcha! The Master of Soul Lee's hand was quick, and he grabbed the scroll abruptly. For a time, a delicate knife that touched an inch or so slowly floated in front of him, but with the appearance of the knife, the hideous ghost disappeared in an instant. In the whole sky, there is an extremely dignified depression. This small knife is definitely not ordinary. This is. How near below opened her beautiful eyes and stared at the black knife tightly, a sense of fear arose spontaneously. Senior sister, is this? Xiao Yan also felt the gloomy aura on the black knife that could destroy everything, and immediately asked. Soul Destroyer Sword, the 9th of the 12 evil soldiers in the ghost world. This knife was forged by a certain reincarnation powerhouse in the ghost world in his life, and it is known as killing all undead ghosts and ghosts. Once it is touched by its attack, only the soul will fly away, even if it is a strong person at the reincarnation level. How Near raised her eyebrows, clenched her cold palm tightly, and said nervously. The Lord of Soul Eater has the blessing of the Soul Eater talisman, and can basically achieve an immortal body, but even so, once he is cut by the Soul Destruction Blade, I am afraid that it is stronger than the Lord of Soul Eater, and it will be seriously injured or even fall in an instant. Soul Destroyer. It's hidden deep enough. Looking at the exquisite knife exuding supreme power in front of him, the Soul Eater still smiled slightly. Soul Eater, it's over. From now on, the ghost world will be my era. Let me inherit everything for you. Ha ha ha. Behead this seat. The roar like a madman resounded throughout the world. Soul Destroyer is indeed tyrannical, indeed a lot more tyrannical than my Soul Eater talisman. But with this, it's not enough. Seeing the Master of Soul Eater, who was holding the winning ticket, the Master Soul Eater smiled. Soul Devouring Talisman. Swallow the Divine Realm. Without any extra action, Countless black incantations directly and completely wrapped the entire void, and the power of devouring immediately filled the entire desert. The domain of the Lord of Soul Eater is based on the Soul Eater talisman. It used to be swallowing the sky and devouring the earth. In the Black Realm, the terrifying suction force that is enough to devour all things continues to emerge, but this force is completely different from the power displayed by the Soul Killer. After performing such a terrifying blow, after a while, the Lord of Soul Eaters still did not stop. He knew that alone might not be enough to defeat the Lord of Li Soul. At that time, he would also have something in his body. The most yin and evil things are born slowly. Soul-killing knife, slaying ghosts and gods. Without any hesitation, the master of Li Soul held a black knife in his hand, and a mouthful of blood gushed out on it. Suddenly, the black knife was like a demon, and a dazzling black light erupted. With the blade, it moved towards Soul Eater. The Lord roared away. Teacher, Master, seeing the Lord of Souls in such a world-destroying posture, the Lord of Soul Eater, who was as quiet as a stubborn stone in the swallowing heaven realm, many of Soul Eater's henchmen below couldn't help but murmured. There was a hint of concern in it. Although Tiantian Divine Realm is tyrannical, compared to a soul-destroying knife, it is still a little bit worse. And in the battle of the reincarnation-level powerhouse, such a small gap is enough to determine the real victory or defeat. New 81 Chinese website updates the fastest computer. It seems that this battle is over. At the beginning of the battle in the sky, Xiao Sensheng in Xiao Yan's body laughed, because only the reincarnation powerhouse can perceive that the Soul Killer saber is indeed not powerful. The vulgarity is enough to completely obliterate the Lord of Soul Eater, but at this time, within the main body of the calm Soul Eater, an even more sinister force, like an ancient dragon, slowly awakened. Even that power, compared to the local power displayed by the Soul Destroyer sword, is only stronger or weaker. For a time, the entire shattered desert hinterland trembled, as if it would explode at any time, and the battle between the two reincarnation powerhouses had also come to an end. Opening parenthesis, closing parenthesis.